been 13 years since 9/11, and so this might be the time to ask, what have we learned in that period about the threat that we confront from radical Islam? Well, there was a really clear delineation this week. We saw two world leaders, ours, that'd be Barack Obama, President of the United States, and UK Prime Minister David Cameron, both address how the civilized world ought to deal with ISIS, ISIL, and radical Islam. Watch this.
Now, we cannot appease this ideology. We have to confront it at home and abroad. To do this, we need a tough, intelligent, patient, and comprehensive approach to defeat the terrorist threat at its source.
I don't want to put the cart before the horse. We don't have a strategy yet.
Wow. Powerful, just those few little words.
Kind of a contrast.
Wow. No strategy. 2 words.
No strategy.
Now a firestorm.
And David Cameron saying, look, he summed it up in one sentence. We cannot appease this ideology. These are people who kill for the sake of killing, who have no actual program, who are nihilists. It's not like you're going to sit down in Paris and like strike out a peace accords with these people. The president doesn't seem to grasp that.
Yeah, so instead we hear words like options, and we need to take a deeper look. We need to talk about diplomacy instead of such a clear-cut message from Cameron.
Yes, still reviewing a plan for a meeting, to have another meeting, is what it appears like. And you remember Prime Minister David Cameron came home early from his vacation after the beheading of James Foley, the American journalist. Of course, the beheading suspect had a British accent, but he comes right home. President Obama, on the other hand, was on the golf course, so we've seen this before. And once again, Cameron has raised the terror threat level to severe, which is the second highest and the highest that they've had there in 3 years. And the United States not acting in concert with that.
But how depressing to be shown up by the leader of Great Britain, you know, a faded empire, a former empire, basically a wax museum, as compared to the United States, the most powerful country in the history of the world, and their leader seems to grasp really clearly, in a way that ours does not, the nature of the threat.
But let me try to take the other side here, too. Cameron's talking, but we are doing the airstrikes.
You know what? That's an excellent
We're doing the airstrikes. Where are the British planes?
That's a good point.
There you go.
And it's costing us $7.5 million a day, and we haven't even started in Syria yet.
But our president says that he's waiting on the strategy from the Pentagon, right? But didn't we have a strategy about a year ago when the red line was drawn?
Well, this is what is so interesting, is that the White House is saying, well, we don't have a strategy because, as you said, it's the Pentagon's fault. We're waiting on them. But isn't it the White House that devises the strategy and the Pentagon that carries it out, which is to say the political side does the strategy, the military side does the tactics? Isn't the commander-in-chief supposed to be in charge of the goal? Yeah,
but the Pentagon will say that we put a bunch of strategies together, taking it to the White House, and they go, too soon. Not quite yet. And in fact, some of the generals and past generals say it's embarrassing what we're going through. Listen to Bob Scales here, a general you know very well.
I guess the one word I'd use, Kimberly, is embarrassed. The idea that somehow the military is detached from this. I know credible sources inside the Pentagon that have told me that time and time again they've taken options, they've taken different scenarios, they've taken plans to the White House and the senior leadership, and on every single occasion they were told too soon.
So this is in response, by the way, in case you missed it this week, Josh Earnest, the White House spokesman, saying, again, it's the Pentagon's fault. We're just waiting on them. They're dragging their feet for some reason.
And it's never good when the press secretary has to explain what you meant to say.
Blame the uniformed military? That's their default position.
Yeah, that's what we heard from Josh Earnest. But what we just saw from the Pentagon, a little over a week ago, we heard from Chuck Hagel and the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Martin Dempsey. And Dempsey said, we have to address Syria if we're going to address ISIS. And we heard from Hagel, and he said that ISIS is the most sophisticated thing and essentially makes al-Qaeda look like school children. That wording makes you think that the military is ready to act on this and that they do have a plan. Charles Krauthammer was on Special Report last night. He says the president is looking for a scapegoat.
This is a president who cannot decide, and on this he obviously cannot decide, but what does he do? Instinctively he blames somebody else for the so-called misinterpretation of his thing about strategy, and his spokesman today said, well, he hasn't received the options from the Pentagon. You could see the Pentagon spokesman was just at the edge of saying, what the hell are you talking about?
Talk to anyone who serves in the military now, recently retired. I mean, I can't think of any who support the president's leadership in the Middle East. Depressing.